but I worry sometimes about some of the modern, this idea of, endless articles about be your best self, 5 ways to be your best self, 3 things to do, 3 habits to change, all of those things which we're fed. And I wonder whether or not they create, there is no doubt that they will create moments of flow, of joy, of connection, of any number of the things where we feel, where this is a good day, this is a good moment, this is a good afternoon. But both sort of sometimes self-inflicted and then other times externally inflicted. The loss of a loved one, a friend who's had a bad day, any number of really, the smaller challenges and the bigger challenges can accidentally come into our life, the role of luck and the role of bad luck and environment. And I think that when people sort of feel that there's a permanent nirvana state to be in this messy, fleshy, contradictory space we live in as human beings, and that if you're not there, somehow this is another thing you're failing at. It's another thing
Yeah.
you're failing at. I mean, some of the people I've seen struggle, and I'm really careful here, who've been away, on a fabulous retreat, and they've had the epiphany, and they've been through something really cathartic and really meaningful, and it may be well have changed some of the fundamental ways they think, and it may be very long lasting. But also there are times where they go back and they meet their first passive aggressive colleague again, and somehow all that stuff goes out the window, and then they're thinking, oh my goodness, was that moment where I told that story I'd never dared tell anybody before, and I was supported and loved and cared for, or I wept before the beauty of a dawn, or I did choose to walk barefoot in the hills for the first time since I was a toddler, or walking around without any shoes on, whatever you decided to do which was meaningful. Those things both were meaningful. They had real moments. You can be with them. You can go and find them in your life again. You can find them through meditation. You can find them through all sorts of memory. But there will be other things that will come and will challenge you. And kind of that's all right too, because it's going to happen. And so I think there's this deep paradox. And I think about this a lot. Um, I think I had, one relatively a brush of quite serious illness in my life. When I had cancer, I had kidney cancer, so I've only got one kidney, and it came out of the blue. It was a storm that came up, as far as I was concerned, out of nowhere. It was diagnosed accidentally, and in the recovery from it, that fascinating, endless balance. And I think this will be something I'll be working on till my dying day, is that mixture of being kind to oneself and being tough with oneself, and how
Yeah.
one finds that balance, how one, allows oneself to be. I remember, I mean, one of the ways of thinking around this is around the language we use around cancer, for example, the classically the language around fighting cancer. So if somebody famous gets cancer, there'll be an article and somebody in their entourage will say something along the lines of, well, if anybody's got the strength to fight this, then enter name of celebrity here, so and so has.
Yeah.
As if by correlatively, there are a bunch of moral pygmies out there who aren't made of the right stuff, who are in lily livered fashion going to succumb to this thing. Now, in the immediate aftermath of my cancer, I was quite militant about this. Now my view would have changed a little bit. If I, as the person who's got the problem, choose to use that language, bring it on. I'll fight with you. I'll help you. What can I do to help? But what I cannot do is impose that language on somebody else. I mustn't say you must fight this. You'll fight this. All right, you can fight it. It's all in the mind. Those kind of things. And again, probably now I was crosser 15 years ago if I felt people being unkind, and now I probably they're meaning well. They're not meaning to be unkind. But if somebody says, it's in the mind, it's really important to stay positive, I kind of know that. But if I'm having an afternoon of pain or fear, and then somebody's saying, yeah, you're making the little buggers divide more quickly, that isn't really very helpful or kind. So I think there's this deep, endless paradox in our lives between acknowledging the the moments where one does need to try and get one out of a moment of overwhelm, those moments where things coalesce around you, and that's what overwhelm is, and how you start to pick and unbraid them again and unweave them again, and yet being gentle. You're just not going to live a life where you don't get angry, where you're not hurt, where you haven't felt the pain of unrequited love, where you just wouldn't be drinking deeply enough at life if you didn't.
Thanks for watching the latest clip from the What is a Good Life podcast. My name's Mark McCartney. I'm the host of this podcast, and I'm also a coach based in Berlin. Over the last 2 years, I've interviewed over 150 people around this question, and I've distilled these findings, anecdotes, and experiences into both corporate workshops and one-on-one coaching programs. If you're a corporate looking to book a workshop for your next event, or you're a working professional in need of finding answers to some of the bigger questions in life, please direct message me below for a free 30-minute consultation.